Yes, sir.
We'll be starting in 5 minutes. So if your friends are interested in joining, or if they joined in the last session, you can invite them. Okay, so it's 7:05 now. I think we should start without delay. So are the slides visible?
Yeah, sir. Slides are visible and
Okay,
clear.
okay, thank you. So hello everyone to the second session of game development by Easter eggs under Hackslash and IT Patna. So I am hopeful that uh, the first session where you were given the introduction to game development, like what is game development, and um, information about some of the game engines, and who are indie game developers and what are the major game publishing platforms, etc. Gave you some idea, some insight about what we are going to do and what we do in game development. So building on that further, this session we will be working on, we will be basically exploring some of the basics of game development. Like the last session which you attended was the qualitative aspect of game development. Today we are going to dive into the quantitative aspect where we are going to look into particular components that make up a game and that contribute to game development in whole. So my name is Ayush. I am the head of Team Easter Eggs, and I welcome you all to this session with my two friends Mario and Luigi. I hope you know them. So the goals of this session is basically quickies. This slideshow will be very quick, approximately about 20 to 25 minutes, since our main aim is to give hands-on practice on Unity today, like how to work on the interface of Unity and what are the basic controls of the interface. If you have installed Unity, then you must have, and if you have tried to open it, then you must have seen that there are various windows, and it's quite confusing sometimes, like uh, what for what purpose which window is. So today we are going to look into that so that whenever you open Unity next time, you at least know that what is the function of which window and what are the basic components that make up Unity and how you can start working on it, how you can basically maneuver in its interface. So today, I'll also be going through some basic coordinate geometry concepts for game development, which I think will be very quick since most of the concept is based on vectors. And I guess since you all have come after JE, then you are all superb in vectors and vector mathematics and 3D coordinate geometry and stuffs like that. Then we'll talk something about the lightning in games, like uh, what is the importance of lightning in games, why we need to have proper lightning in game scenes and stuffs like that. Then we'll talk something about materials. You might have heard this term for the first time. We'll just look into it, what it is. What is a game object in Unity? Unity has a concept named as game object, so we will deal about that. Then we have entity component system. It is basically the structure in which, on the basis of which Unity game engine is formed, and then we will jump into Unity directly. So let's get started. So what is a game engine? In the last session, the two other members, the two coordinators, uh, must have told you about this, but I'm just repeating it just for the sake of conversation, that it is basically a software development environment that helps you to develop games by providing ready-to-use tools that can be used to integrate the different elements that compose a game. So what are the major components that are present in a game? You When you play a game, you can experience these things, you can just see these things, like when you press a button, what you give input to the game. So there is an input handler in the game that basically cues the input that you are giving in the game and then does the stuffs within the game as per the input given by you. Then there is a renderer, which is basically responsible for drawing the graphics on the screen. Then we have physics. Physics means the components which simulate the physical laws in the virtual world, like the gravity and velocity and collisions and stuffs like that. So we have physics. Then we have sound, like you hear the audio in the game. So we have sound component. Then we have artificial intelligence, which is basically the core of any game, the mechanics, the artificial intelligence the players deploy, and what type of intelligence the players possess, how you program. Hello, hello. Does anyone want to say something? Is there any doubt?
No, sir. Actually, Abhinandan joined the meet, and I think he was unmuted at that moment. You can
Oh,
continue.
okay, okay. No problem. So after artificial intelligence, we have cinematic supports. Like when you play a game, you see the cutscenes, which are basically movie-like small sequences which complete the story of a game or which join two separate segments of a game. So we have cinematic support, and then we have networking. Networking, you must all be familiar with networking. The same thing that we create rooms and we add players, the stuff PUBG and Dota and games like these have. So all of these components make up a game engine. And honestly speaking, if you tend to do game development, then seeing the vast array of technologies that we use, you can simply say that this is the field that almost surpasses all the other fields that are present, like app development, web development, and stuff like that, because it has almost everything that you are going to and that you will encounter in any other stream if you work. So this is a basically a very vast field. And so in the previous session, you were also told about some of the different roles that in a game development team, the team members possess. Like there are artists, there are programmers, there are graphic designers and stuffs like that. So building so for game development, we generally have a diverse team, and different members of the team work on different aspects of the game. Now, what is Unity? So Unity is a very popular and powerful cross-platform game engine, which can be used to create 3D, 2D, augmented reality, as well as virtual reality games and simulations. And if you have installed Unity, if you have a 64-bit system, then you might have installed Unity version 2020.2.3 F1, which is the latest version right now. And the language used to code in Unity is C Sharp. You might have not heard of this language, but the Microsoft's .NET, you can search for it, is basically built upon this C Sharp. It is also an object-oriented programming language in the lines of C++ and Java and similar. So Unity works on this programming language. And this doesn't mean that it is very much different from C++ or Java. The syntax is mostly the same. It is, I think it is about 90 to 95% same. There are just a few difference in the semantics of the different languages. So you can cover it up quickly. And if you even start with this language, you can jump to C++, Java, any other language you want to learn. So this language you can learn easily if you know any other language. Now, let's start with basic coordinate geometry for game development. So I don't think I need to explain this thing. What is a point and what is a vector? A point is this is a Cartesian coordinate system. The point is a location on the Cartesian coordinate system, a specific location, and it is denoted by a pair of numbers x comma y, where x y are basically uh, the position which is given by moving along the x-axis and simultaneously along the y-axis. Then the line which joins, let's say, the origin with this point or any other vector or any other point to this point is the vector joining the 2 points. So this is a vector x comma y which joins the origin with this point. So this is the basic concept. And then in Unity, we have two types of vectors. One is vector 2 x comma y, which is a 2D vector, and vector 3 x y z, which is a 3D vector. Since we can work in both 2D environment or 3D environment, depending on the game we are working on or depending upon the software that you are developing in Unity. So you can have both type of vectors, like vector 2 x comma y, which takes two components along x and y axis, and the second one, vector 3, takes three components x, y, and z, which is the uh, respective distance from the origin along the particular axis. Now, in Unity, we have a left-handed coordinate system. So you can see here in the image below, we have got three major softwares. One is 3ds Max, second is Unity 3D, and third is Unreal Engine. So 3ds Max is basically a 3D modeling software and cinematic software. Unreal Engine is a game engine, is another game engine, and it is also very popular and also very powerful. Games like games like your very popular PUBG has been developed on Unreal Engine. So in Unity 3D, we have a left-handed coordinate system. What we mean by this is that if you keep your fingers along the x, if you take your left hand and if you keep your fingers along the z-axis and then curl your finger towards the x-axis, then your thumb will point towards the y-axis. So in Unity, this is the coordinate system that the Unity space follows. The need for coordinate system, the need for a coordinate system in game development is self-explanatory, because we need to place all the objects in the scene, right? So we need a basic geometry, we need a basic geometrical system so that we can define the location for any object in the game scene. So that is why we have a space, we have a virtual space defined within the game engine in which we can place objects according to the according to the distance from the origin, or in accordance to the coordinate system of the particular environment. Now, since when we place a model in the space, it has got three different parameters. One is the position, one is the rotation, and one is the scale. Position means where it is located with respect to x, y, and z axis. Rotation means how much it is rotated. For example, if you have a body, like if you can see here, this is a cylinder, and a cylinder, there are three axes of the cylinder itself. One is along the length, and then the two are along its circular ring. So we can say that how do we define the rotation of this? So we can define the rotation of this particular 3D object along any of its axis, and the scale is basically the size of this object. Like what is the value of what is its length, what is its radius, and for cylinder, and for cubes it can be what is its height, what is its length, what is its breadth, etc. So how do we define this these three things in a 3D space using one simple container? So in Unity, we have three vectors wrapped inside a container called a transform. So when we will open Unity, you will see everything we are just moving through here will be displayed in Unity later, means in this session itself. So if you are not understanding anything, don't worry. We will just jump straight in as soon as these slides get over, and then I'll show you everything there also. So these three set of vectors are wrapped into a container, and this is known as transform. This transform basically represents three components of any 3D model or anything that you place in the environment. One is the position, which is represented by vector 3 xyz, which is the displacement from origin of world coordinate system. Then we have rotation, which is also vector 3 xyz, which is degree of rotation around each axis. And then we have scale, which is vector 3 xyz, which is 2 vector 3. And then it is the scale factor on each axis, where 1 is equal to 100%, which means if you enter 1 in the scale factor, then the object is in its original dimension. Now, if you, let's say, enter 0.5, then the object will be half of its original dimension. And if you enter 2, then the object will be double of its original dimension. So this is what it means. Now, we have two types of coordinate system in Unity. One is the world coordinate system, and another is the local coordinate system. So the difference between them is that the world coordinate system is that, let's say you have a world, okay? And let's say you are sitting in a room, and in the room, the middle of the room, you can say that the middle of the room is a reference point. So this reference point never changes. Okay, this reference point remains static, and you can for your room, if your room is a world, then the world coordinate system, then the origin of the world coordinate system of your room lies at the center of your room, where you have defined the reference point. Now, let's say I think this example is better, the solar system one. Let's say in our solar system, the sun is the center of our solar system, right? And all the other planets move around it in an elliptical orbit. It is just for representation that the circular orbits are shown. So if we say that the sun is the center of the solar system, and our solar system, let's say, is the world that we are dealing with right now, So the sun represents the world coordinate system, and Earth revolves around it. So Earth is revolving with respect to the world coordinate system. Now, around Earth, what is revolving? Around Earth, moon is revolving. So how? So what you can say that the moon, for the moon, the which is the coordinate system that the moon is following. The moon, for the moon, the Earth is the center. The Earth center is its origin for the coordinate system that it is following. Are you all understanding or not? You can just unmute and also say if you are not understanding. Hello.
Understanding, sir.
नहीं, अगर ऊपर से जा रहा है तो भी बता सकते हो, कोई परेशानी नहीं है.
Sir, if you can start from the start it again. So,
Start it again. अच्छा, world
system and all.
ओके. मतलब इसी स्लाइड पे ना, सेम स्लाइड से ना?
Yes, sir.
हाँ, ओके, श्योर. हाँ, तो see, world coordinate system and local coordinate system. So let's say we are taking the example of solar system, right? So let's say universe doesn't exist, and the only space that fills is the solar system. Okay, let's say beyond the solar system nothing exists. Okay, so for us solar system is the world. Okay, now in the solar system, what is the midpoint of the solar system? What is the reference point in the solar system in accordance to which we define everything else? It's the sun, obviously, right? Because the sun lies in the center of the solar system. And so let's say if we have to tell the distance of Earth, so how do we define the distance of Earth in the solar system? We will define it from the frame of reference. And what is our frame of reference? It is the sun. So we can say that for our world, that is the solar system, the sun represents the origin of the world coordinate system. Just like we have Cartesian coordinate system where we have origin. So let's say in our world, which is the solar system, the sun is the world coordinate system, right? It is the center of the world. Okay. Now let's shift our focus to Earth. We can see that when Earth is revolving around sun, that's good. Okay, but what is the other thing that revolves around the Earth? The moon. And the moon, if you see, it is clearly visible that the moon revolves around the Earth and not around the sun. Means if you say the moon is revolving in a circle, then the center of the circle is the center of the Earth and not the center of the center of the world, that is the sun. Okay, so what I am trying to say is that the moon is not falling. Moon is, for the moon, the local coordinate system is the center of the Earth. Okay, Earth cannot be the global coordinate system because we have seen that the global or the world coordinate system is the sun, which we have assumed. Now for the moon, if we try to define the moon's revolution around the sun, it would be a bit difficult to model it, or it would be a bit difficult to represent it. But if, let's say for simplicity, if we say that for the moon, the center which it is following for the revolution is the Earth. So we can say is that the Earth is the local coordinate system for the moon, while the sun is the global coordinate system. Did you all understand now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, nice. Okay, so moving further. So now we are done with the basics of coordinate system. If you understood that, then you will have no problem in understanding how the objects get oriented within the world in a 3D game space and stuffs like that. Now the next thing is lightning. So why do we need lightning? So there are basically 5 key points. One is illumination, that is allow users to see the environment. Let's say we had no light, like if there was no light source in the world, then actually how humans see? Can anyone give this answer? How humans see?
Reflection of light, due to reflection of light.
Yeah, okay, right. So whenever the light bounces off any object, the photons that enter in our eyes illuminates that object, and then we are able to see that object, right? So if, let's say, there was no light source anywhere in this world, then naturally, if there are no photon sources, then we wouldn't be able to see anything, because our eyes wouldn't be getting any photons which are reflected from somewhere. So lightning is important for illumination so that users can see the environment. Then second is we have modeling structural and dimensional qualities of objects in the environment. I'll explain this with a figure in Unity itself. Okay. And simulate time of day, like day or night, day-night cycles. Like if you have played GTA or games like that, then you know what are day and night cycles. Then we have how to define contrast in scene. Like you can see here, there is a still from Amnesia. If you know about this game, or if you don't know, this is basically a very popular survival horror game. So you can see how the contrast of a scene can make the scene look like this is a kind of spooky scene, a bit of horror scene. So the contrast of scene basically defines the mood of the scene. So this is what it is. And then focus the player's attention. In the same still from Amnesia, you can see how there are multiple these candles laid around in the circular fashion around this staircase. So naturally, whenever a player will play this game, and let's say he enters this room, then he will be naturally interested in seeing what is around there, around this light source. So you also, if you also have played games, you might have seen that in some games, whenever you follow a light source, which means some objects sparkle brightly, then they attract your attention, and you may go towards it, and then you get your objective or stuffs like that. So there is also another importance of lightning, is basically diverting the player's attention to a specific location. So this is the main importance of lightning. Now we have the different types of lights in the environment. One is the ambient light, which is a reflected light, which our friend just talked about. What is your name? Whoever said that it reflects, please.
Himanshu Rai.
Himanshu, our beloved friend Himanshu just told us what are reflected, how humans are able to see. So the way we are able to see is most of our vision is because of the ambient light, which is the reflected light from the surface of the any object. Then we have directional light, which are the parallel rays. So sunlight is basically a source of directional light. Since you know that if you have read this optics, then you know that when light source is kept into infinity, then the rays of coming from that light source are parallel. So that is known as directional light. In Unity, we use directional light to generally represent the sun. We'll go to Unity and we'll see how that thing works. Then we have point light. The best example is a light bulb. So point light has basically a spherical light range. So if you use a bulb, then you know that you have got basically the range covered by a light bulb is a sphere. And then we have spotlight. The most famous example is a flashlight. You can see how when you turn on flashlight, then there is a conical sort of stuff. This conical view frame of that light comes out. So that is flashlight, that is used for modeling and focus. Now, this is one interesting question. Why do games demand for powerful hardware and GPUs? You must have seen, like if you are purchasing laptops, or if you are planning to purchase laptops, then you must have seen the craze for gaming laptops, and laptops with, like someone says, I've got a laptop with 4 GB graphics card. I've got a laptop with 6 GB graphics card. I've got a laptop with this, that. So why do we need such powerful hardware and GPUs for games? What is so special about games? Anyone can give answer? You can tell your opinions about this.
Because when the
Due to a lot
game
of
is going on,
game.
many programs are running at the same time.
One second. Please say again. What did you say?
Because when the game is running on, many programs are running by side.
Okay, but that is not the proper explanation. Next one.
Due to a lot of due to a lot of things happening in the game, actually, we add a lot of like actions and a lot of graphics, like a lot of stuffs which we add. That's why it needs more and more graphics.
Okay. You are somewhat near, but not exactly. Anyone else?
So the game needs lots of data, it fetches lots of data. So to store it, it needs powerful hardware and GPUs.
Store it. Okay. And what else? Anyone else?
Sir, in a game, as soon as you move your cursor, all the graphics and the surroundings change accordingly. So for that purpose, we need a graphics card.
Okay. So this was somewhat more towards the answer, tends towards the answer, but not exactly the answer. We are playing limits here. No problem. Okay. Good. So let's now move forward. I'll tell you the exact reason. So okay. So for you guys who might have, let's compare two different games. One is the IGI, the very first IGI, and let's compare it with Assassin's Creed, the latest version, or maybe GTA 5, anything. What is the most obvious difference you guys observe in both these games, if anyone has seen?
Graphics quality.
The
So the
graphics,
visuals.
visuals, yes.
Visuals?
Graphics.
Yeah, graphics. So everyone is saying about graphics. That's right. So you see this, are you seeing these three heads?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
these three, see the graphics in computers, what are they? They are basically made up of polygons. And the most primitive polygon, what is the most primitive polygon? The simplest polygon?
Triangle.
Square.
Triangle.
Triangle, right. Triangle is the most primitive polygon. So every model you see in any game or anything, the actual design is created using a lot of triangles, a lot of polygons. Okay, so here we have three different human heads which have different counts of polygon. So this is a low poly model which has 578 polygons used. Okay, so this type of model was used in IGI. So as you can see, if we use low amount of polygons, then the curve on the head is not this round. It is a bit conical type. You can see that, right? And this might be what you have observed in IGI and games like that, games of that era. So for low poly models, we have low count of polygons. Then we have this mid poly. Models. These mid poly models are used in, let's say, the first version of Assassin's Creed 1. So this had mid poly one. It has a bit higher number of polygons, and you can see the shape of the head. It is a bit more rounder as compared to the previous one. So it looks a bit more realistic. Now comes high poly. Now, if you see high poly, it is more dense and it has got many number of polygons, a whooping 9,192 polygons, which means 9,192 into two triangles. So you can calculate that it's actually around 18,000 or something triangles just to create a face so detailed. So you can see that for just creating this face, what is the amount of data, high amount of vertices. For example, here we have 18,000 something triangles and each triangle has 3 vertices. If you ignore overlap for some time, then we have 18,000 into 3 vertices to store and to operate on, right? So you can imagine if for just a single face we have 54,000 vertices to operate on, then what would be the overhead, what would be the load on the GPU and our processors, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it is because of this that we need powerful hardware and GPUs, because our see, the next slide has the proper explanation. So when a frame is rendered, the graphics card must translate the coordinate in 3D space for every vertex to the 2D screen space. So you can see that when we build games, each of these vertices that are here in the polygons, uh, using which these models are made, these are in the 3D coordinate space in the game engine itself. But when we create it on this, when we have to show it on the screen, we have to project all these points on the screen, because the screen is a 2D space. Screen is not 3D. Our game engine, the environment in our game engine is 3D, but the screen is itself 2D. So we have to project these points in such a manner on our screen that these 3D points get plotted as 2D points, and also maintain the aspect ratio in such a way that the object still appears to be 3D. So how it is done? It is done by multiplying each vertex with a projection matrix. So you might not, so this might be a new term for you. So the projection matrix stores the information related to camera, such as its position, its angle, etc. So how does an object look like depends on the camera, right? The angle on which which you put the camera, the position of the camera, and stuffs like that. So is a camera oriented is the that is the main deciding factor how an image will look on the screen. So this projection matrix basically stores that data, and then after this transformation, various other calculations are performed by graphics card, like the texture shown by polygon, the effect of light on it, etc. Texture means, since I just showed you the wireframe diagram, right? The which wireframe diagram means it was created of wires and frames and sorts like that. So when you render an actual face, when you create an actual face, or when you create any actual model, then you have to you place some texture on it so that it regains the shape of some real world object, or some whatever you are trying to depict. So the texture, etc., are all calculated by graphics card. So this means that the graphics card has to perform many number of operations, and depending on the capability of a graphic card, it may process more vertices or less vertices in a given time. In case it isn't able to process all vertices in the given time, frame rate drops. So most of the time, if you are using a low end PC and you are trying to run a very good game, then most of the time you lower your resolution, or you turn off the shadows, or you make all sorts of settings so that your game runs a bit smoothly. Your FPS maintains about 30 or 60 FPS. You all might have done this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So that is the reason why we need powerful hardware and GPUs, because of the graphics, because of the mathematics. You know how expensive is a matrix operation. That 3x3 here we are here 3x3 or 4x4 matrix. When we multiply with other matrix, how much operation is involved, and then with the number of vertices, 18,000, 19,000 vertices, it's quite overwhelming. So that is why we need powerful hardware and GPUs. And all these calculations are performed on GPUs. Now we'll talk about material. So what is a material? A game object is often made up of 3D geometry, sometimes called a 3D model. If it is represented here as a wireframe. So this is a car. I don't know which model is this. So this is a car, and you can see how it is. Maybe bhai, I don't know. So this is created using a wireframe. This is the wireframe diagram. Then a material is applied, which can be thought of as a wrapping element across the wireframe. So you can see how a white cloth-like element has been added to this particular wireframe. So this is a material, and all the game objects that are visible have a material. Okay, so here is the material on this particular game object. Next, we have then the game objects have a shader, which is a formula that decides how the material should be displayed. This is mainly responsible for making the object visible. You can see how now these things have become glossy, and how this thing has become metallic. Like the actual, if you would see an actual car, then the semantics of the material would be depicting like this. So the shader is basically a formula which decides how the material is to be displayed. Now, shaders has various properties, one of which is its texture. In this example, the texture is what gives this car its spectacular color and shades. So you can see how this car has got its beautiful shade, and this is because of the texture. So we have these 4 things that we need to keep in mind when we are dealing with materials. Now, what is a game object in Unity? Yes. Hello.
So the texture we select manually, or it is automatically selected according to that object?
No, texture you have to add. If you have the texture, you have to create the texture and add.
Okay, sir.
Now, what is a game object? Game objects are fundamental objects in Unity which can be used to represent any entity like characters, models, props, etc. They act as a container for holding components which are responsible for adding the functionalities and desired behavior to the game object. So you can see that here we have a game object which represents a point light, and this game object has a transform. This is basically a screenshot from Unity, and you can see how this game object has a transform which we talked about: position XYZ, rotation XYZ, and scale XYZ 111. And then we have a component named as light, which defines the properties of this light, like what type of light is this, and what is the range of this light, color, the intensity of the light, the bounce intensity, and stuffs like that. Okay. So this is what a game object means. And this is for a point light. We can have a game object for a bullet. We can have a game object for an enemy. And similarly for all other stuffs that you add in your game. Then we have an entity component system in Unity, which we will deal with later. And then now your mind must have gone like this. So let's dive into Unity now. So please open Unity Hub. Whoever has installed can open Unity Hub. Have you guys opened Unity Hub?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So since you all have installed it for the first time, your page might have been blank. Your page would be blank here. I have created these projects, so that is why all the projects that I have created is shown here. So for you, this might be blank. Now, if you have to add a new, now let's create a new project. For that, you have to click on new. And then here you would get this screen when you need to select a template out of the given templates. This 2D template is basically pre-formatted for 2D games. 3D is pre-formatted for 3D games. And this high definition and universal render pipeline are somewhat advanced. This high definition render pipeline are for high definition games where you need to push the limits for the visuals. You need to create extraordinarily better graphics. And then we have this universal render pipeline, which is basically meant for developing games which can run on any platform, better quality games, but which can run on any platform, like high visual games that can even run on mobiles and stuffs like that. Since we are going for a basic tutorial, we will select this 3D one. Then you can add, name your project here, whatever you would like to say, whatever you can name your project here. And then you can set the location of your project. I have set one fresher tutorials location. You can set whatever location you want to. And then click on create. It would take some time to open. Once you have done this and your Unity screen opens, just tell me. Since I have already created one, I have opened it and I am on my screen. So whenever you are done, just tell me, please.
Done, sir.
Okay. Okay, so if you have opened Unity, then you must be seeing. 1 second, let me just. Yeah. So if you have opened Unity, then you must have seen your layout must be different from this one. Am I right? Your layout should be something that a screen is in the middle. This screen is most probably in the middle, and then you have screens. You have options on the left and the right side. Is it right?
Yes, sir. I have a different version, but it is all similar. Same thing.
So your window layout is same. Like you have these two windows here and all the stuffs here.
No, no. So the layout is different, but I can
Oh,
see both the frames and the different options.
okay, okay. So if you would like to change your layout, the one I am using is you can go to Windows, Window, and here in layout you can select 2 by 3. The one you are using right now is default, and there are various different layouts which are created. So uh, you can choose anyone as per your convenience. I am using 2 by 3. So if you want to use this, you can switch to 2 by 3. So now shall I begin the explanation part of this? Is everyone ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. So you might be overwhelmed by seeing the huge amount of these screens here all around here. So I would just tell you that what does each screen mean, and it's not quite overwhelming. You would understand in a moment. So the first window you see here, which has a this coordinate system type of world, is the scene view. So in this view, this is the view which holds all of the components or the scenery that you are going to that you have placed in your game world, like uh, the world which you are designing or the components that you are going to add in your game, the entities, the elements, the enemies, and whatever you have to add it here in this world, in this space. And by default you might be having this main camera, which is basically the camera which renders the scene. Um, and you have a directional light. We talked about directional light. What does it do? It works like a sun. That is why you can see there is a sun like thumbnail on it, and there are parallel rays marked on it, which shows that this is a directional light. And these are the two objects by default. And you can see that when I click on camera, you can select on any object by left clicking on it. It's as easy as that. Yeah, you can select any object by just clicking on it. So when I click the main camera, you can see that here you get a small viewport. This small thing, this small window is known as a viewport. And here you can see it is showing main camera and then a projection of a horizon. So this shows that what your camera is seeing. Like your camera is pointed like this, right? You can see. Actually, how you can move around, I'm telling you. What you can do is if you want to pan the camera like this, like if you want to stay on the same place but rotate around this, you just need to click and hold your right mouse button, and then you can move your camera like this. Okay, you can try it out. Is this working?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you can move around like that. Now if you want to zoom in or zoom out, you can use the scroll button. You can use the scroll button to scroll up. If you scroll up, you will zoom in, and if you scroll out, you will zoom out. And you can even move around in the scene, fly around in the scene like I'm doing. What you need to do is just hold your right mouse button and then press the WASD keys. Just like you play games for moving forward, backward, left and right. If you press like this, you can move around in this scene. So I'm also moving around the scene in the same way. So this is the way you can move around in this complete world. Actually, the bounds are infinite, so you can move around. Infinite means it is so large that you might never be able to reach the end. So this is how you move around in this scene view. And yeah, and we have this camera. This camera when I go closer to the camera, you can see this frustum type of viewport. You can also move around in your screen and see this is a frustum type of viewport, which basically defines the area within which this camera is able to see things. Like you can see the end of this is basically somewhere here. If I go, oh, it is somewhere very distant. So if your object say goes out of that rectangular area, which is at the farther end, then your object will not be visible here. And here is below is the game view, which shows what the camera is seeing. So wherever your camera is and whatever the camera is seeing is displayed on the is displayed in the game window. And whenever you want to test your game, when you click play, here we have the three buttons: play, pause, and then we have step. So if you want to play, if you ever want to test your game, when you click play, everything will be happening here, and whatever will be displayed here will be the one that is seen by your camera, and which is unlike this place where you can fly around irrespective of where the camera is placed. You can see everything here. You can even place the camera here. Okay, now let me add a object. Now I'll tell you how to add an object. Let's say what I said about this is that you can all the elements that make up your game will be held up here. The scene is responsible for that. So to add any new element in the scene, let's say Unity provides us with some primitive shapes like cubes, capsules, and spheres, and things like that. So what you can do is you can right click here on your hierarchy. The hierarchy basically outlines what are the elements that are being held in this region, in your scene region. So as you can see currently in the scene region, we have our main camera and we have a directional light, which is a light source. And by default, it always comes with a sample scene. Or even when you create a new scene, by default, these two are always there. So now if you want to add something, you right click, and here you have several options here. If I click go to 3D object, here I get options like cube, sphere, capsule, cylinders, etc. Now if I hit cube, you see that a cube is added, but I cannot see here. Why? Because it is not in front of the camera. Okay, and for the cube, you can see for the cube we have these. We have the transform. Forget about these things for a while. Let's focus on the transform first. So you can see that its x, y, z position is somewhat odd, like 120 minus 57 minus 65.26, and for the main camera, our z position is minus 10.11. So obviously our cube is about 130 units away from the camera, and if we see what is the foundation of our camera, then the foundation of our camera field of view is 60. Actually we need to calculate it, so let it be. I'll have to tell you the formula, let it be. But you need to see that it is out of the foundation of the current camera. So if we need to reset its position so that it stays in front of the camera for the given camera settings, we need to click here. We need to click on these three dots, and then we need to click on reset. What it does is it resets the position, rotation, and scale to the default value, that is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 1, 1, 1. 1, 1, 1 scale was to why 1, 1, 1, because 1 is represents 100%, and in all the three dimension it is 100%, means it is the original width, height, and length of this object. So this is how you add an object. And what are these lines basically? So these gizmos can be used to move this object around. Like currently we have this move tool. So move tool helps you to translate this object in the different along the different axis marked here. Like this one, this green is marked for y. You can match it with the gizmos here. You can see the gizmos here on the top right corner of your scene. So this one corresponds to the y-axis, this red one corresponds to the x-axis, and this blue one corresponds to the z-axis. And you can see that if I bring it closer to the camera, how this scene view, how this game view, in this game view, you can see how when the this cube is coming nearer to the camera, its size is getting bigger. So it is
Sir?
represented. Yes, yes.
Sir, how did you set it in front of the camera?
You can click on the cube, okay, and then here click on the three dots, and then you can click on reset.
Okay.
Okay, did it work? Yeah. Okay, so these are the three axes which you can handles or axes which you can use to move this object in the space. Now we have this rotate tool. Now if you click on rotate tool, you will get this circular gizmos, and what you can do is if you click on one of them, it gets highlighted, and when you drag this, you can rotate this, and when you rotate this, you can just see there how the angle is changing. Like you can see there in the inspector window in the transform section. If I click on the blue one and rotate this, then the rotation value along the z axis is changing. Why? Because since I have used the blue gizmo and blue corresponds for the y axis, so considering the y axis, the rotation that I'm doing right now is around the y axis. So this is how you can rotate it in y axis, and this is in x axis, and this is in this is and this is in y axis, and this is in x axis. So you can do it like that. And if you think that your object has got disoriented at any moment, you can simply click on reset and it will get back to its original position, that is default values. Then we have the scale tool. This scale, yeah.
Sir, I'm not able to rotate it.
Have you clicked on this rotate tool? You have to use the rotate tool. Here you have in the yeah, here you have the rotate tool, this refresh kind of symbol. Is it working now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next we have the scale tool, which is just next to it, and this is normally this is generally used for scaling. Like if we use this, if we click and drag using this red, it will get rescaled on the x-axis, blue on the z-axis, and yellow on the y-axis. So this is used for rescaling. Then this rect tool is not of use right now for us. Now this move, rotate, and scale tool gives all the three options which we just saw together, and then we can move, we can rotate, and we can scale all together. All the three options are given together in this move, rotate, and scale tool. Okay. So this was basically how you can manipulate the dimension of the objects, any object that you place in the screen. This is it. And then we have, and then I'll show you what we discussed about lights. So I have created a separate folder. If you want to ever create a separate folder, what you have to do is here in the assets explorer, where you can right click on the assets folder and then go to create, and then you can click on folder. This will create a new folder. You can rename it, like if I rename it as tutorial and press enter, then a new folder named as tutorial will be created. It is always advised that you create whatever new folders you have to create, you create from the Unity game engine itself, and not from the, like if you create if you right click here on assets and click on show in explorer, it will open a separate window. It will open the window in the explorer where the files are actually stored. So you can see these are the actual files, and it is recommended that you never make changes here, because Unity might not be able to update itself according to that changes. So whatever change you have to make, like whatever file you have to copy paste, you can use directly create a folder here in Unity, and then drag and drop the files or folders, whatever you have to copy paste directly here, and just like you do the normal drag and drop function, and then it will get copied here. So I just now created a new folder, and you can see this is an empty folder. I just created it right now. So I'll just show you one new one, lights demo that we were talking about. So you can see that here we have a cube. Okay, here we have a cube, and I have placed the cube in front of the camera such that it looks like a what you can say, it looks like a square, right? So you can see that the whole scene is blank and only there is one directional light and there is one cube. So now if I turn off the directional light, let's say the scenario when there are no light sources, you will see that everything becomes dark. Though the object is still there, but everything is dark. Why? Because there are no photons that are falling on it and that are getting projected towards the camera so that we can see. So whenever I just click on this directional light, the object reappears again. Now we talked about one another point like which represented structural and dimensional quality. So what does it mean? Now if I see this cube, now see how light plays a very important role in this. If I see a cube from this angle, focus here on game engine, game screen. If I focus here, if I see here in this perspective, anyone would suggest, if he she or she has not seen this screen, you'll say that this is a square because it looks like a square, right? Now if I try to drag and if I try to rotate this, okay, see, if I rotate this, now see how the way the light falls on it makes an impression that this stuff has been rotated and this is one face and this is other face, right? Did you observe the difference? What happens in the presence of light? How it how it depicts the structural and dimensional qualities?
Yes, sir.
If I rotate it in any manner, you could see how stuff change. See, this is what happens in presence or in now if I again turn off the light, then whatever I do with it, no matter what I do with it, I can never see it because there are no lights here. Okay, so this is what is the main meaning of illumination and structural and dimensional qualities, effect of light on these two things. Now another thing is one lights demo. So I told you about the different types of lights, what are different types of lights present in Unity. So we have this very simple scene where I have simply put a cube in front of the camera, and this is a plane which you can also add. Just right click, go to 3D objects, and then you can click on plane, and the plane will be added here. Or if it is not added here, you can simply position it using this tool, just like we did earlier. And so you can see that currently this is the demonstration for a directional light. So as for directional light, we know that the directional light acts as a sun. So you can see that a very strong ray is coming. It is giving a feeling like there is a sun or very strong light source that is coming and illuminating this surface, just like the thing is kept in sun. So this is what a directional light looks like. Now now we have this spotlight. So you can see spotlight, it you can see here one is here in the scene view. You can see how this spotlight dimensions are mentioned, how this range is here depicted. So and in the game view you can see how it is being rendered. So if I move it up or down, you can see how, just like the spotlights or just like a torchlight, how it has just this circular range covered and it is conical. So this is a spotlight here. And next we have point light. So point light, just like a bulb, you can see we can see how its view cone area is a sphere. So just like I told you that if you use a light bulb, then its range is in the form of a sphere, and similar is here. So if I move it here and there, you can see how the how the illumination of the particular scene is changing. So I hope you understood what was the meaning of those lightning techniques and all in the slides.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we'll move back to the scene, and just there is one small thing. I think we are running short of time. Just 5 to 10 minutes more, we'll be done. Let's move back to sample scene. I don't want to save. And if you have ever made a changes to a scene, and if you are moving to another scene, see, why do we have multiple scenes? You can consider a scene like a level of a game. Like if you have multiple levels in a game, one scene will depict one level, another scene will depict another level. So scenes basically club all the elements of a particular level in a common space, and you can design them in that common space, and that you can use as a single level. So whenever you switch scenes, like you go from another scene, then you will be always asked for saving any unsaved changes. So if you want to save, you can click on yes, and if no, you can click on don't save. Then here we are back on our normal scene. Now let's see, we were talking about game object, right? So what is a game object? Let's see. So if you want to first delete anything, if I want to delete this cube, I will click on this cube and I'll press the delete key and it will get deleted. Okay. Now let's add a game object. So here we have one create empty. So if we click on create empty, then we can see that we have here a game object created, and this game object has a transform only, nothing else. I'll reset this for a moment. Yeah. So any game object you add, any empty game object will always have a transform associated with it. And you can see that you can never remove it. Why? Because what is the only thing that is required to depict the location of any particular object in the space? It's its coordinates, its rotation, its scale, right? So you can never ever separate this thing from a game object. Game object is never truly empty. It has at least this transform so that you can actually define where it is in space. Now we have this game object. Now let's see how we can change this game object to, let's see, create a sphere, right? So from the material tutorial, you know that we first need to have some structure to store the vertices of the particular polygon we are trying to create, of the particular model we are trying to create, right? So if we have to, let's say, if we have to create a cube, right? We have the ready-made cube, but I am trying to show you how you can create it from scratch and what is the main meaning of game object, how you can change any game object to give the desired to give the desired effect, or to give the desired behavior you want in your game for that particular element. So we can click on add component, and here we can search. So here we have many components we can add. These components basically directly affect the behavior of the game object. And for storing the vertices, we have used a mesh filter. So a mesh filter is used to store the coordinates, to store the data of the vertices of a particular object. So I have clicked. So when we click here, we have added a mesh filter here as a component, and you can see there is no mesh here. So you can visibly see nothing on the screen. It's just this empty. It's just this 3 coordinate axis and nothing in here. So we can click here, and then we have got these basic vertex data. We have for the cube, capsule, cylinder, plane. So let's, for a moment, let's take sphere, right? Okay, we have added sphere, but we are still not able to see anything. Why? Because we have only stored the data related to the vertex, or only through the vertices of the mesh, and we have done nothing which what we have talked about, that wrapping, that special wrapping. So we have done to create that special wrapping that actually makes this thing visible. So for that we have to add a mesh renderer. So what a mesh renderer do? See, now we can see this thing, but it is completely pink. I'll tell you why. So as you can see now, this object has got its 3D shape. Now you can see this. Now you can move this. So we just added a mesh renderer to it. Now you can see that no element has been specified to this. So this is the reason why this is rendered in pink, because in Unity pink is the default color for any object that has no material or no covering over it. So we can add any material. Let's say we can add, let's say we add this default material. We have few default materials in Unity. So if I add this default material, So you can see how now that color has gone and it has become similar, somewhat similar to the cube that we use. It has got the same texture, it has got the same rendered effect over it, the same graphical effect over it, right? So this is how you create this game object. Now let's say I want it to follow the rules of gravity. You haven't seen gravity right now, how it is working in Unity. So there is one simple component which we use, and this is the rigid body component. So this rigid body, there are two elements actually, rigid body and rigid body 2D. The rigid body 2D basically is used for 2D components when we create a 2D game. But here, since this is a 3D sphere, we use rigid body. So actually, this rigid body, what it does is it enables this object to be influenced by physics. So in game engine, there is also physics engine which basically simulates the game laws. So now so you can see it has a mass, it has a drag, it has angular drag, and use gravity is set to true. So now if I click play, just notice what happens here. See, this thing falls down, right? So what happens is that once I add this rigid body, this object will fall down in the influence of gravity. Let's say I don't want to use gravity, and let's say for a moment, if I remove this, yes, if I remove rigid body and then if I hit play, then you will see that nothing happens. It stays here. Why? Because it doesn't have it isn't treated like a physical body, so it stays there in the environment. Addition of rigid body enables it to interact with the physical aspects of the game engine, and then it follows the rules of physics. Okay, now, so I think for today this is it. There are a few concepts like what are the collisions and what all, but we have a separate session for that, and I think the time is also up. So yeah, so I think this is it. So if you all guys want to ask something, or if you have any doubts and things of that sort, then you can please then you can share it with, then you can just speak about it.
Sir, like what we have to do now means we have to create something or we have to just attend the classes.
See, actually, the thing you all are just seeing is just the basics. It's just how, like today, I have shown you how you can basically maneuver, how you can basically see how you can use the Unity editor, right? So there are more components in games, like you also need to know how to program and what are the how to use the Unity API. Unity has got different commands on how to move objects and how to perform the actions. So you need to study that. So after that, in the you can see that plan. In that plan, in the sessions 5 and 6, we will be building a live game together. We will be coding together, and after that, most probably you will be given a task to create a small game based on a theme. So during that, you'll have to create a game. For the further few days, I think for in the next 1 week or 1.5 week or so, the classes will be over. Then after that, you can create whatever you like.
Sir, what is minimum requirement for game development, sir, or in laptop processors?
For laptop processors, see, for as per the current trends of the game engine, an i5 processor with 8th gen i5 8th gen processor with at least a 2 GB graphics card, a minimum 2 GB graphics card, and 8 GB RAM is practically sufficient. If you want to use Unity game engine, it's sufficient. And if you are aiming for some very powerful software like Unreal Engine or something like that, then for that you need to have a laptop like a Predator or something which has a 4 GB graphics card, 8 GB or 16 GB RAM or stuffs like that.
Sir,
And it has got yeah.
Sir, I have i3 processor, 8 GB RAM. Then should I learn this?
Yeah, Unity will work on that, no problem.
Okay, sir.
Anything, any more doubts regarding the subject or regarding any of the
Sir?
concepts? Yeah.
And sir, the classes will be like going like this only, or we'll be having classes on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday, yeah, we will be definitely. Actually, there are multiple sessions, right? Because the other departments are also having their sessions, the ML team, the web team, the Android team. So that is why, since the classes may collide, so that is why we have set our schedule in a way that none of the classes collide. So most probably our next class, I don't know, maybe it's on Friday or Saturday, or maybe it's like that. Any more doubts?
सर लैपटॉप का प्रोसेसर i3 है, तो सर अगर यूनिटी रन कराएंगे तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा लैपटॉप में?
नहीं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगी। वो हाई एंड गेम्स बनाने में प्रॉब्लम आती है ज्यादा। मीन्स अगर बहुत ज्यादा ग्राफिक इंटेंसिव गेम बनाओगे तो थोड़ी दिक्कत आएगी, नहीं तो दिक्कत नहीं आएगी कोई।
तो सर अभी हम लोही गेम बनाएंगे ना, जैसे आप पढ़ा रहे हैं उस हिसाब से?
अभी हम लोग तो नॉर्मल बहुत बेसिक गेम, कोई आर्केड गेम अभी तो फिलहाल जैसा रिस्पॉन्स होगा उसके बेसिस पे, लेकिन कोई 2D गेम्स बहुत सिंपल सा बनाएंगे। जैसे मान लो पोंग हो गया, या फिर ये क्या बोलते हैं, स्नेक्स हो गया, ऐसे कोई बेसिक गेम ही बनाएंगे।
ओके सर।
अभी समझ में आ रहा है सबको?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
और इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है क्या? अभी तो बहुत शुरुआत है, बेसिक है, क्योंकि तुम लोग तो अभी आए ही हो जस्ट, इसीलिए अभी डायरेक्ट तो जंप नहीं कर सकते हैं। थोड़ा अगर प्रोग्रामिंग वगैरह का नॉलेज रहता तो फिर कुछ मतलब कर सकते थे, बट अभी तो तुम लोग जस्ट आए हो, तो फिर हर चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए करना पड़ रहा है ना, इसलिए थोड़ा बहुत अभी शुरुआत का हो सकता है थोड़ा सा बोरिंग लगे, बट ये सब नॉलेज थोड़ा होना इम्पोर्टेंट है, ताकि आगे जाके फिर जब थोड़ा एलेबोरेटिव वे में डेवलपमेंट करे तो उतनी दिक्कत ना हो। तो
एंड सर, जिसको मतलब जैसे हम कोई लैंग्वेज नहीं सीखे अभी तक, तो C# सीखने में प्रॉब्लम होगा?
नहीं प्रॉब्लम होगी। नेक्स्ट जो सेशन है वो प्रोग्रामिंग पे ही है, तो उसमें शुरुआत करेंगे वहीं से, बेसिक से, मतलब वेरिएबल्स और उस सब से लेके लूप्स वगैरह, उस पे हाफ एन आवर वगैरह का सेशन रहेगा। उसके बाद फिर वो नेक्स्ट सेशन थोड़ा लंबा रहेगा ज़्यादा, फिर उसमें वही यूनिटी में कौन कौन से फंक्शंस होते हैं, कैसे यूज़ करते हैं, उस पर थोड़ी बहुत होगी डिस्कशन, बातचीत, और फिर कुछ कुछ डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन छोटे छोटे।
सर नेक्स्ट क्लास कब है?
नेक्स्ट क्लास वो सेशन में दिया होगा, मैं इन्फॉर्म कर दूंगा, मैं ग्रुप पे डाल दूंगा, क्योंकि मुझे भी नहीं आता।
सर सेशंस का ये जितनी भी टीम्स है उनके सेशन का कुछ शेड्यूल हो तो सर मिल जाता तो सर, एक्चुअली क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा कंफ्यूजन हो जाता है बहुत बार।
हाँ भाई,
और
मैं समझ रहा हूँ। हमारा तो सेशन है, मतलब हमारा तो सेशन का हमने डाला हुआ है चैनल पे, मींस मैं आज फिर शेयर कर दूंगा, तो वो हमारा दिया हुआ है। और जहाँ तक बाकी टीम्स का सवाल है, तो शायद उन्होंने भी अपने चैनल्स पे दिया होगा, अगर नहीं दिया होगा तो मैं आज बात करके सबसे बोल देता हूँ, तो मान लो सब एक बार फिर शेयर कर देंगे, तो तुम लोग याद से डाउनलोड करके रखना, क्रॉस रेफर करते रहना उससे।
यस सर।
ओके, तो सेशंस ठीक लग रहे हैं?
यस सर, अच्छा लग रहा है सर।
Yes, sir.
चलो ठीक है तब। और किसी को कुछ पूछना है तो मैं यहाँ हूँ अभी थोड़ी देर, और मान लो जिसका हो गया, ये पीपीटी वगैरह सब शेयर हो जाएगा, और फिर ये किसी को और कुछ अगर पूछना है तो पूछ सकते हो, कुछ डाउट है तो क्लियर कर सकते हो, और मान लो जिसको लीव करना है वो लीव कर सकता है। थैंक यू एवरीवन, मैं अभी हूँ यहाँ पे 5-10 मिनट।
थैंक यू सर।
Thank you.
Sir, can I
Thank you,
include
sir.
more things? Excuse me, sir.
हाँ लखन।
Let me tell you, candidates, that game development is the hardest thing I observed. You will be seeing Android development and web development. in your going on journey in this college, and you will be experiencing lot of things. But what I think is game development is the hardest. And if you know game development, if you learn once game development, then web development and Android development are easy ones for you. You can easily do them. And one more thing, while you are developing a game, the patience is the one most important thing which you will need. Patience to make a game. You will think like that somewhere at a point that this game is were taking to me and I am not able to do it or anything like that. You will be not able to do anything. So you have to keep patience and keep doing that thing. It will definitely lead to any results, good results. That's what I want to say. So keep these things in mind. It may help you.
सर
Yes, 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 Harsh.
सर जैसे सेशन में सब समझ में तो आ रहा है, बट आई डोंट नो कि ऑनलाइन में कितना हम लोग सीख पाएंगे। जैसे कॉलेज में होते हैं तो कुछ बनाते रहते, कुछ पूछते रहते तो ज़्यादा आसान रहता है।
हाँ हाँ भाई, वो बात है। वर्चुअल में वो तो एक बैरियर है जो मतलब दूर करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है। बिकॉज हमारा जब जो फर्स्ट तुमसे जो पहला वाला बैच था, तुमसे पहले वाला मीन्स जो तुमसे जो अभी सेकेंड ईयर में है, तो उनका ही पहला बैच था गेम डेवलपमेंट का। तो उनका जो भी क्लासेस हुआ था वो सब इवनिंग क्लासेस होता था कॉलेज कैंपस में ही। तो फिर उधर बहुत कुछ हो पाता था, मीन्स डिस्कशन अच्छे से सब हो पाता था। ऑफलाइन ऑनलाइन हर चीज मतलब सब आराम से हो जाता था। यहाँ थोड़ी दिक्कत की बात है। फिर भी कोशिश यही रहेगी, मतलब हमने ऐसा ही प्लान किया है कि मतलब वो ज्यादा बड़ा हर्डल ना बने और तुम्हें मतलब तुम लोग डिसेंटली सीख जाओ। मीन्स इतना तो आइडिया लग जाए कि तुम लोग चाहो तो अपने से भी स्टार्ट कर सकते हो। तो कोशिश हमारी यही रहेगी। और अगर कहीं भी अगर मान लो दिक्कत आती है या कहीं भी अगर तुम्हें लगता है कि अगर मान लो नहीं कर पा रहे हो उतना, तो जरूर बताना। तो फिर तुम्हारे फीडबैक के हिसाब से तब इम्प्रूवमेंट होगा। ओके।
यस सर, लाइक एक स्क्रीन पे जैसे हम लोग MS टीम्स में जो आप बता रहे हैं वो देख रहे हैं, देन वी हैव टू
हाँ
ओपन दैट यूनिटी, देन वी हैव टू परफॉर्म। उतना टाइम नहीं है, जैसे यू आर प्रेजेंटिंग कंटिन्यूअसली एंड ऑफ कोर्स वी डोंट हैव दैट मच टाइम कि सब लोग करके देखेंगे तब होगा। इट मींस थोड़ा सा मतलब इनकन्वीनियंट है
हाँ
ऑनलाइन में।
हाँ, वो बात है। ये तो एक काम कर सकते हो कि जैसे कभी टाइम मिले तो रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर सेशंस तो अपलोड होते ही हैं। टाइम मिले तो रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर सेशंस को बस थोड़ा थोड़ा टुकड़ा टुकड़ा मतलब देखो, पॉज करो, सेम टू सेम चीज अपनी तरफ रिपीट करो, फिर देखो, पॉज करो। क्योंकि तुम्हें पता है शुरुआत में मैंने क्या बताया, स्लाइड्स वाले में तो तुम्हें कुछ करना है नहीं ज्यादा। मेन तो लास्ट में जो अभी 25 से 30 मिनट डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन हुआ है तुम्हें वही करना है। तो तुम बस वीडियो को पॉज करके अपना साइड में देखो, पॉज करो, अपना उधर करो यूनिटी में, फिर इधर वीडियो देख के अपने आप फिर आदत हो जाएगी कुछ देर में। दिक्कत नहीं आएगी ज्यादा। ये एक तरीका हो सकता है अगर तुम्हें कन्वीनियंट लगे तो।
ओके सर। एंड सर आई डोंट हैव दैट सेपरेट माउस, आई यूज दैट लैपटॉप जो इंटीग्रेटेड होता है लैपटॉप में, वो यूज करते हैं। तो शुड आई परचेज दैट सेपरेट माउस फॉर?
आई थिंक यू शुड परचेज, बिकॉज वो जो दैट कैमरा, that you know the what we say, the controls of the camera, like how you can fly around with the scene and stuffs like that. So if you have to perform that, you need a mouse like that so that you can hover around easily, because in this laptop mouse it is not possible actually. So if you can purchase it
Yes.
once, then it will be fine. Yeah,
Okay, thank you sir.
no problem. So if anyone has to, yeah, Srijan.
मेरा विंडोज 7 है और वो भी 32 बिट्स। तो सर मुझे यूनिटी यूज करने में प्रॉब्लम आएगी या हो जाएगा स्मूथली?
हो जाएगा भाई, यूनिटी तो हो जाएगा इंस्टॉल।
इंस्टॉल जैसे हो गया तो अभी जैसे हम ट्राई कर रहे थे, आप जो जो करा रहे थे करने का, तो कुछ फीचर्स नहीं दिख रहे थे मुझे। तो
हाँ, कुछ फीचर्स नहीं होंगे क्योंकि बिकॉज यू आर यूजिंग यूनिटी 5.6.7 राइट?
यस सर।
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली 4 इयर्स पुराना वर्जन है ना। बट अभी जो मैंने दिखाया होगा उसमें से लगभग सब चीज होगा। कुछ कुछ चीज मतलब कुछ एडिटर्स तुम्हें मिसिंग दिख रहे होंगे, मतलब कुछ विंडोज, बाकी सब चीज सेम होगा अप्रोक्सीमेटली।
ऑब्जेक्ट वो सब तो आ रहा था।
हाँ, तो वो सब सेम होगा, कोई एडवांस फीचर यूज भी नहीं करेंगे, बहुत सारे एडवांस फीचर्स है लाइक VFX ग्राफ्स और ये सब है इसमें, मतलब लेटेस्ट वर्जन में जो 2015-16 में जिसका नाम निशान कुछ नहीं था, तो फिर वो उसको यूज नहीं करेंगे इसमें, तो तुम कर लोगे बेसिक्स।
अच्छा अच्छा। तो जैसे फिर अभी आप एक रोटेटिंग वाला जो बता रहे थे, तो उसमें मेरा ऑब्जेक्ट गायब हो जा रहा था, तो वो हम रोटेट हो रहा है वो हम देख नहीं पा रहे थे उसमें।
ऑब्जेक्ट गायब हो जा रहा था मीन्स तुम कैमरा ऑब्जेक्ट के बहुत पास ले गए थे क्या?
नहीं सर, वो हम फिर जूम इन जूम आउट करके भी देखे थे, दूर ले जाके भी, तो वो गायब ही हो गया था एकदम।
अच्छा अच्छा, ठीक है, तो उस ऑब्जेक्ट को रीस्केल मतलब कि उसको रीसेट किए थे पोजीशन उसका?
सर रीसेट का कोई ऑप्शन नहीं आता है, वो फिर न्यू ही ऑब्जेक्ट आता है नया।
अच्छा, नहीं नहीं, तो एक काम कर सकते हो ना, वहां पे साइड में जो इंस्पेक्टर में जहाँ पे वो दिखा रहा था ना मैं कि वो तीनों जो उसके कोऑर्डिनेट्स है, मतलब रोटेशन, पोजीशन और स्केलिंग के तीनों जो कोऑर्डिनेट्स थे, सबको 0 0 0 कर देना मैनुअली, वो रीसेट हो जाएगा।
अच्छा हाँ सर, ये
और जो स्केल है, स्केल को 1 1 1 कर देना, बस स्केल को 1 1 1, बाकी दोनों रोटेशन और पोजीशन 0 0 0 रहेगा, क्योंकि अगर स्केल 0 करोगे तो ऑब्जेक्ट दिखेगा ही नहीं।
सही बात। ठीक सर, थैंक यू सर।
नो प्रॉब्लम। और किसी को कुछ पूछना है तो पूछो, फिर 5 मिनट में मीटिंग एंड करेंगे, नहीं तो लीव करना है तो लीव कर सकते।
सर यूनिटी से एंड्रॉइड गेम्स भी डिजाइन किए जा सकते हैं?
सब प्लेटफॉर्म भाई, क्रॉस प्लेटफॉर्म गेम डेवलपमेंट है, सब प्लेटफॉर्म। या